Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Okay, members, agenda item 1, apologies. I have a number which have been passed to Hilary. Are there any from the floor? No. Okay, members, declarations of interest. I'm assuming we don't have any, but we can take them as we go if you feel they're relevant. Okay, members, we're going to move on to, instead of going straight to agenda item 3, we are going to welcome in Jackie and Vicky from Positive Life. They're going to give us a presentation here. So members, if you just bear with us, we're going to hand over, and you're very welcome, and you can begin your presentation.
Oh my. Now, hopefully I will be able to manage all of this tech, because this kind of goes a bit over my head, guys. So first and foremost, can I just thank you for the opportunity to be here and to talk to you all this evening. We really appreciate that. I'm not going to kind of labour the slides. I don't want to do death by PowerPoint. So we'll get through those as quickly as we can. And we do have a video that we would like to show, time permitting, that's more powerful than anything that I have to say. So we'll kick off from here. So just to let you know, we are Northern Ireland's only dedicated HIV charity. We've been in existence now for around 40 years, coming up on 40 years. And our main aims and goals are to support people living with or affected by HIV in Northern Ireland. We have a vision that HIV should not be any different than any other long-term condition, and that people should be able to live well, full lives unaffected by stigma. So just to give you a wee bit of the background, we have 1,368 people in Northern Ireland living with HIV. You can read most of those for yourself, but the one thing I would like to highlight, which is a complete mythbuster for us, is that the most common route of transmission for new HIV diagnosis in 2023, which is where we have the latest stats, was through heterosexual transmission, and that was 58% of the figure, and that's a figure that is rising. Again, to bust some of the myths for you, HIV is not a gay man's disease. It can affect anybody who is sexually active, and it can affect anybody at any time in their lives. It's not the death sentence that it once was. Given the clinical development since the 1980s, people can live full, happy, healthy lives. And in fact, some of our service users would tell us that they're healthier than somebody who's not HIV positive, because they take such good care of themselves and they are so aware of their physical health. Condoms aren't effective in preventing HIV. Condoms are probably the most effective way of preventing HIV. We do have some later developments in terms of the clinical progress, and that would be that if somebody is on, I think that might be on the next slide, is that? No, if somebody is on effective medication, it means that, and this gets a bit technical and a bit over my head, but it means their viral load is undetectable, which means HIV is untransmittable. So there we go, and that is the campaign that we live by, and that is U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable, and that's a total game changer for anybody who has an HIV diagnosis. So just a short synopsis of what we do. It's actually a lot more than what that slide portrays. I suppose the main thing for us is the one-to-one and group support. So that's about the people who are living with HIV in Northern Ireland, and they lead everything that we do. They are central to all of the decisions that are made within the organisation, all of the developments we have, all of the campaigns and lobbying that we do are all influenced by our service users.
My name is Sarah, and my dad is living with HIV. It never overly affected our family, as we are a close-knit unit and are always open and honest with each other. When my dad told me he had been diagnosed, my first reaction was surprise. It wasn't a big dramatic conversation with tears and loads of emotions like you think it would be. I then learned about Positive Life. It was a place where he could go and talk to trained professionals who understood what he was going through. When my dad told me he was HIV positive, we had to learn how it affected him on a day-to-day basis and that people's attitude and knowledge about HIV is usually factually incorrect. There is a large stigma regarding HIV in Northern Ireland. My personal experience with the stigma would be during my time in education. In biology class, when it was taught, you could see your classmates' reaction and even the teacher's lack of knowledge about the condition. I remember the class just looked in shock at my teacher. But he quickly reassured me, and this was the first thing that really made me realise that HIV is very misconstrued. It also concerned me as children are sent to school to learn, and we complain about the stigma around HIV, but how are children supposed to grow up knowing any better if that's what they're taught in school? In Northern Ireland, more needs to be done with people living with HIV. My hopes for the future for my dad and all living with HIV is a better understanding of the condition and treatment through education in schools. As World AIDS Day approaches, we need to stop and think about those living and affected with HIV, like my dad. We need to end stigma. One way that you could do this is through supporting Positive Life on the 1st of December.
Okay, so I suppose that's just a short synopsis. That's just one story of the very many people who come through our doors. And again, Sarah talks about her dad, and that's not the stereotypical, that's not the vision that people have whenever they think about somebody who is HIV positive. And she also talked about the education or lack of that she had received in relation to it. So moving on then to one of the things that we're here to talk to you about is the Fast Track Cities initiative, and that is driven by a World Health Organization target to eradicate HIV, new HIV diagnosis globally by 2030. It's one of the things that Positive Life are really passionate about. And again, I'm not going to kind of read the detail of that. We absolutely believe that Northern Ireland could be the first UK region to achieve this. The Fast Track Cities, as it says, is a global partnership which is, at the minute, over 550 cities and municipalities working together to achieve this target. It's driven at a very local level, so it's driven with people like you in councils like this all across the world. These are the targets that fall out of the United Nations, which we believe will be a vehicle for achieving that 95% of people living with HIV have been diagnosed, that 95% of people diagnosed with HIV are on treatment, which takes me back to the U=U, the effective treatment and how that prevents onward transmission. And then 95% of people on HIV treatment have an undetectable viral load. And as I say, I'm not going to read the detail of that. It will be available for you. I can't see it either, is part of the problem.
So just the arrows on the right indicate how we are doing in Northern Ireland against those 95 targets. And we are currently at 94% of people living with HIV are aware of their diagnosis. 100% of people who are aware of their diagnosis are now on treatment, which is fantastic. And 97% of people in HIV treatment have active viral suppression. And again, that's back to the U=U. So the missing link is really where we come in with Fast Track Cities. What is the missing link in all of this? Well, it's helping people to be aware, and it's really all about getting tested and knowing your status. If you know your status, then the chances are that you will not, you will take action to prevent it being passed on, and that's what this whole campaign is really all about.
Thank you, Vicky. Everybody should have a Vicky.
Usually my
that has their
eyesight
back.
isn't actually that great. So.
So as Vicky says, HIV testing, knowing your status is the most important place to start, reducing stigma through education and awareness, and promoting the awareness again back to the U=U campaign. All of this feeds into the Fast Track Cities initiative and our target of 0 new diagnosis. So the path to 0 new diagnosis in Northern Ireland, again, as Vicky said, the missing link, that a quarter of diagnosis were made at a late stage. So that goes back to the education piece, it goes back to knowing your status, getting tested, owning your sexual health. And what we are trying to do is to promote access to the testing, breaking that social stigma through awareness raising and education. And early testing is key to that. So how council can make this happen? Sign up and commit to being a Fast Track Cities advocate. So your mayor or elected member signs or commits to signing the Paris Declaration and drives the council motion forward. Council commitments are to promote HIV awareness and anti-stigma messaging, so all of that stuff that we talked about, that we as an organisation deliver on your behalf, supported by the council. Enable free pop-up HIV testing in council buildings. We've been doing that across Belfast and Stroke City. And host staff learning sessions to support EDI and reduce stigma. Again, that's the education piece. And we know from experience that whenever we educate with parents and give them knowledge, then that gets disseminated around the kitchen table. Post sign up, we would be needing a steering group, so the public health clinicians, voluntary sector and people with HIV lead on the action plan. Council to stay engaged, and again, it's not a huge ask. There will be officials even within council who can do that as well, and we've had great support from councillors across Northern Ireland. Why Fast Track Cities matters in Northern Ireland, again, not going to go into all of the detail, but we have seen, because through the work that we have been doing, we've seen a 48% decrease in first-time diagnosis over the last decade, and that's huge. The savings to the public purse is huge. For each new diagnosis, there is a cost of around £360,000 just for the medical, clinical side of treatment. That doesn't take any account of all of the other add-ons. Stigma remains a major barrier, and the mental health impact of that is absolutely phenomenal. And public awareness is essential to challenge those outdated views and to bust the myths that we've already talked about earlier. So campaigning messages, again, this is something that we work closely with councils and other elected representatives to progress. It's about the getting tested and it's about the ending stigma, and we have lots of opportunities throughout the year to do that. So here is where we're at the minute with the Fast Track Cities initiative and who we have commitments from Belfast, Derry, Londonderry and Lisburn and Castlereagh have all already committed. We are working with Newry, Mourne Down, Antrim and Newton Abbey and Ards and North Down. And we have, as you can see, a wee question mark with you guys, but we're hopeful. Thank you very much for listening. That was a whistle-stop tour there of what we do, so any questions we're happy to take.
Okay, thank you, Jackie and Vicky. Members, are there any questions relating to this matter? If not, sorry, Jessica or Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to Jackie and Vicky for a really informative presentation this evening. There's a lot of good work goes on within the charity across Northern Ireland. I just have a question around the Fast Track Cities. Obviously, you have to target for no new HIV diagnosis by 2030, but you have a specific target for the council signing up to the Fast Track Cities. Is it sort of by the end of this year, or sooner the better? Just be interested to know that. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Johnson. Yes, we are going as fast as we can. Northern Ireland were a bit late to the game with it. There's no money to invest in this, so we're doing this as we do our regular contracted role and as we fulfil that. So I suppose what we're saying is as soon as possible. And we're working our way through the councils. I mean, I suppose in an ideal world, what we would like to see is for World AIDS Day this year to be able to say that we have all of the councils committed to it so that we could then facilitate a formal signing of the declaration. And that would give us 5 years then to work towards the target and to achieve that by World AIDS Day 2030. Which is the 1st of December, in case you missed it on the presentations.
Okay, members, if there are no other questions, just want to say thank you for your presentation. You're doing great work, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks
thank you.
again. Thank you.
Okay, members, we're going to move on to agenda item 3, and I'm going to hand over to Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware that the annual business plans for Community Development and Health and Recreation Department require approval at this committee as part of Council's Performance and Quality Management Framework. The business plans for the up and coming year for Community Development and Health and Rec Departments are set out in this report and the associated appendices. It is recommended that members approve the business plans. Head departments are here to answer any queries that members may have. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul, and I'm sure as you've noticed, members, they're very substantial reports. Alderman Tinsley?
Thank you, Chair, and I did take some time today to go through the report, no, it's excellent, it's very, very good, and there's no criticism of it, except the fact that when we come to the staff area, the baseline is TBC to be confirmed, and that's for 2024-25. So I don't actually even know what the baseline for that even is. Maybe, Paul, you could highlight that for me. That's the same in Appendix 1 and 2 of the report. It's almost at the end of it. Probably, let me see. It's under your key performance indicators, and it's the average number of days sickness absence lost per employee. It's to be confirmed what the baseline is, and also with regards to the performance completed at the end of Q1 and Q3. So if you could just, I'm not even sure what the baseline actually means for that, Chair. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Tinsley, for your very logical question, I have to say. The reason why that's not updated yet is because, and this is corporately, we have, at the time of writing the report, we didn't have the baseline figure. The baseline figure is essentially the end of year, 31st of March, 2024-25. And so, hence, until we get that figure corporately for those across the board, then we can insert that update, and essentially that will be our baseline in terms of comparison to previous year. Does that make sense?
Okay. Chair, thank you for allowing me to come back, because I know it's a heavy agenda. I suppose I'm just confused because it's the whole point of it, of that indicator, is to improve. So if we haven't got a baseline, how can we improve on that?
No, I understand, and unfortunately it's the lag time there is between collating that information and bringing it forward. I suppose corporately it's been agreed that in May all of these business plans came. We can certainly bring it back once it's been updated and we have the baselines for members, which is certainly the right thing to be asking and doing. We're conscious that we're bringing back next month, I suppose, the looking back, which has that information, and hence probably that's why it's going to June committee, the looking back, in terms of, because we haven't got those baselines and stats yet to be able to bring that report. So hopefully be able to update you on that moving forward and outline the baselines.
Are you happy with that, Alderman Tinsley, for now? Yeah, the figures are going to be coming next month. I do appreciate it was probably a tight turnaround. Members, if there are no other questions, I do need a proposer and a seconder for these two business plans. Happy to propose Alderman Tinsley and Councillor Hockey. Okay, members, thank you. Agenda item 4, members, there are 2 information items, so if you would indicate if you have any questions relating to that, Alderman Tinsley.
Yeah. And thank you again, Chair, and to the officers, an extensive report, great to read. Just one, and this is always one, and I believe there was a paragraph probably put in for me. It's the LEAP Employability Programme. I know we get funding for that, and we do a good job in rolling that out, but I'm yet to see any benefit from it. Now, I did note that there was a paragraph went in, Gillian, and it said that we hope to maybe take some of the people that went through the programme to get them into our casual staff. It's impossible to do that because the qualifications they're gaining from that programme is not up to, I looked and seen what the spec was that was required for our casual staff working in the leisure centre, and unless they have separate qualifications which are greater than what we are offering on this programme, that's never going to be a factor that we can actually bring them into the organisation. I even looked at the junior programme, you know, the junior casual staff that we have, and they still aren't meeting that criteria. And, you know, I'm not putting this course down, but I'm just wondering, have we evaluated why we're actually doing this course? Because I know we're getting funding for it, but we're still using our staff. And I mean, I look at this organisation time and time again, Chair, I have said, why are we not bringing young people in and giving them work experience, giving them the opportunities in-house to gain more experience that could be perhaps more beneficial in roles that we could fulfil, because we are having difficulty getting young people into employment, and we do have positions in this council that we are constantly filling. And so if this LEAP programme could possibly be redesigned for those vacancies, I'm all for that. But I just don't want to be running an employability programme for the sake of running it. Thank you for allowing me that time, Chair.
No, that's a fair comment. I'm just going to bring Gillian in if you want to press your button there, Gillian, and I will, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alderman Tinsley, for the question. So I am pleased to let you know that the LEAP programme this year was specifically designed around trying to educate the participants around becoming a multi-sport coach. At the time of writing the report, we hadn't completed the recruitment, but I'm pleased to let you know that 5 of the participants that were on the programme, so there's 26 in total on the programme, so 5 of those were successful in our recent casual recruitment for multi-sport coaches. So hopefully that gives you some reassurance, you know, that we are trying to link those young people through into employment. I can't remember off the top of my head this evening, but I'm happy to share the information with you tomorrow. But last year's LEAP programme linked, you know, with MPLQ and some of the employment in the leisure centre, and I believe it's like 2 or 3 of those participants actually went on to get employment, you know, in our leisure centres, you know. So, but I take your point, and we will consider that whenever we're designing the programme for this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Tinsley, for the question, and thank you, Gillian, for that clarification. I think that's good information. Thank you. Okay, I have Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's just on the indoor leisure report. It's just a query in relation to the sports hall provision. Obviously, we have quite a few sports there, table tennis, volleyball, and there's pickleball and badminton, but I noticed that the pickleball is probably the least provided for in terms of provision. There's a lot more for badminton, there's a lot more for the table tennis availability. Just wondering if we could maybe look at increasing the provision for pickleball there, a sort of increase in sport. It's only available 6 to 8 a.m. Monday to Friday and not at the weekends. Just if we look at it in the future, it doesn't have to be an answer tonight, but just to see. Thanks, Chair.
I suspect you might get an answer tonight, Darren. Do you want to come in on this, or are you happy to go and look at it?
Yeah, as I understand it, Councillor Johnson, thank you for the question, that it is the same provision as for badminton and pickleball. So I think the space is available, and it's just a matter of booking that through with the facilities as and when. I think that's correct. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
Councillor Johnson, is that okay for now? I'm sure if there's any other issues. Yeah, I'll bring you back in.
Sorry, Chair, I think it's maybe more just the timings of it. I know the badminton's maybe more available throughout the day and in the evening, but the pickleball is just really early in the morning and it doesn't suit. But I appreciate it's the provision in the hall doesn't cater for everyone. We have to think about all the sports.
Okay, thank you. Darren, are you looking to come back in on that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Councillor Johnson, that might just be a programming issue, and if somebody was to book in for the pickleball, they would be facilitated, whether it was morning or evening. But it just depends, because the setups are the same and the space that we have is the same. So, but if there are any specific queries that you have around that or issues, please let us know and we'll try and facilitate as best we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. It's just an item 4.2 in indoor leisure. It's regarding the virtual classes in Rathfriland. I see we're seen to be receiving some positive feedback. I just see one item there as regards a natural light coming into the hall. Have any other feedback at hand that we'll possibly share on how things are going, or comments on that? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Wilson, for your question. Yes, you are correct. There has been some comments in just in relation to the lighting in the hall, and that is to do mostly with the height of the windows that are in the sports hall in Rathfriland Community Centre. So I know the manager there has logged a call with the States to look at a way of trying to address that through blinds or tinting of windows or something to that effect. So that is being actively looked at, and I was up there 2 weeks ago, and she was running me through all those type of issues. So be assured that is being looked at this point in time. And in terms of the rest of the feedback, as far as what we're getting is that the members of the public are happy. It is an additionality, and it is starting to pick up as well. So hopefully we do be it is early days with it, but hopefully over the next number of months we should see that picking up further again as well.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Alderman Tinsley.
Thanks again, Chair. The first one I had raised was 4.1. This is under 4.2. It's with regards to the inflatables out on the leisure centre. Fantastic to see it sitting there, but I want to see people on it. I don't know what's the delay, but it's good to see it out there. But that's not my point I'm raising. The point I was raising was that it says on the report that, let me see where it is here. Over July and August, the final session on a Friday is going to be free to community, and we're working with partners to promote this. I want to know who the partners are, but I think us councillors are the ones that they need to be working with as well, for the different community groups, to giving them the opportunity. This happened a few years ago, but then it didn't happen, and it had been going out. Then community groups were coming to us as councillors, and we're saying, well, why are we not being, included in all of this as well? So, Darren, if you could maybe keep that in mind. Who are the partners that is on the report through you, Chair?
Thank you, Alderman Tinsley. Just 2 points in relation to that, and the first one is just in relation to the inflatable. It has actually been operational, has been operational over the weekends, and staff are doing additional training this week to try and increase that through the week as well. So it has been used, and I think fully booked over some of the days.
Yep.
As well, thankfully. So it's good to get it out early this year. In relation to partners, we certainly will have a conversation with members in terms of if they know of groups, and we'll work with, again, colleagues in community development if they're also aware, but we also know there are a number of groups that use the facilities on a regular basis that we'll be tying in with as well. So we'll be using our existing networks rather than having one or two key partners. We'll not just be offering it to, but we will be open to engaging with a wide range of groups. And that is obviously, we would caveat that by saying there is an availability issue as well. So we will look at all of that on a case-by-case basis whenever they come in. Thank you. Thank
you, Darren. And I'm sure if there's any request from Darren for a councillor representative to go out and test the inflatable, Alderman Tinsley might put her hand up. I wouldn't think so. Alderman Wilson.
Yeah, thank you. It's just regarding 4.2 on the indoor leisure year-to-date performance page. I would just like a wee bit of detail and explanation, because I'm looking at Rich Hill there, and all the values are fairly low compared to everywhere else, which is a wee bit of a concern. But I would like a wee bit of detail in terms of what those numbers actually mean in real terms, because they are vastly lower than a lot of the other similar sized sites in the borough. And I know there is some concerns around some of the provision in Rich Hill in terms of fitness classes and issues with securing people to teach those classes or to host them, and that has been a real bugbear for local people in Rich Hill and others who are travelling a bit further, because they were booking classes and then they were being cancelled, and it was fairly annoying for them. I was getting it in the ear, for want of a better word, in that respect. So I'd be keen to get a wee update in terms of how Rich Hill Recreation Centre is faring in terms of securing that type of instruction for those classes and retaining that for a prescribed amount of time, a number of weeks, that people then know that this is going to be happening, and they can sort of zone in and not then be let down for various reasons. Some of them, I understand, have been fairly reasonable reasons in that regard. Some of them maybe not so reasonable. So it'd be interesting just to see and get a report. Firstly, what those figures actually mean in real terms, and sort of an update on how Rich Hill is faring in terms of retaining its class provision for fitness.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. I'm not sure if you're able to deal with all that. Darren, I'll bring you in.
Thank you, Chair. And I actually wasn't anticipating the amount of conversation around this report this month, to be fair, but happy to fill you in on the detail, Alderman Wilson. The obvious issue in relation to memberships with Rich Hill is there is no provision of a gym in the facility. All of the other sites have a gym provision, and that would be the difference, despite it being of a similar size. We are aware, previous committee, I think maybe in March committee, you have raised that, and officers are going to take that away and look at it. We will look at it to see if there's any viability around that, but that would obviously come with a cost, and we haven't actually got into the detail of that at this stage. In terms of class provision, there are a couple of things that impact on cancellations of classes and how we categorise them. So there are two ways that we do that. There is categorising where members had booked into a class is the first one. So we offer fitness classes out to the public 8 days in advance of that class taking place. If that class has been put out to the public, members have booked in and it's cancelled, we then consider that as a members had booked cancellation. If we know that we run a class every Wednesday night and in January we know we can't provide that class in May, that would come off as a no members had booked class cancellation. Now, it is rare that we would do that, and the vast majority of the times that we would do that would be in relation to public holidays and closures, in relation to that, that would be a no members had booked cancellation, so the public wouldn't necessarily feel the pinch or notice that per se. In relation to Rich Hill specifically, since week beginning the 30th of December, right up until last week, there were 192 classes had been programmed that we would classify as members had booked, and there were 12 of those were cancelled, so we delivered 180 of those classes. Rich Hill is one of the better performing sites in relation to classes and class cancellations, so that's what I would say in relation to that. In terms then of the no members had booked cancellations, we cancelled 25 of those classes. Now, the bulk of those, Chair, through you, would have been in around the Easter week. So in comparison, Rich Hill has a lower membership base because there is no gym, but the classes programme has stood up reasonably well in terms of getting it covered and things like that. So I hope that clarifies. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Alderman Wilson.
Yeah, and thanks for that clarity. And it's in my view, whilst it does, when you're saying that level of classes versus the cancellations, it does represent a significant number of disruptions, I suppose, for people who are quite keen on maintaining a regularity about their class usage. So I would say that, and I would add to that then, very helpfully in what you've said, I would, maybe urge for that refocus on gym provision. I think it would be a game changer for Rich Hill Recreation Centre, because we have the disruption with the outdoor mugga space, and that's not easily resolvable. I will concede at this stage, but I'm hoping that it can be resolved within a reasonable period of time. But it does sort of sharpen my resolve in terms of seeing adequate provision in Rich Hill. I think it's below adequate at the minute with what's going on with the mugga, and also with the fact that we don't have a gym. I think a gym would be a reasonable request, given the size of the site, and there is available space, I think, in it that would adequately cover that. I would just urge officers to really give that a good shake out to see how far we can get in that within a short period of time for residents. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Wilson. On your comments have been noted. I suspect there'll be follow-up conversations involved in that. Okay, members, those were information items, so we are going to move on to agenda item 5. We have already taken 5.1, which is the presentation. So if there are any questions or comments related to 5.2, please indicate now, otherwise we can move on. Okay, nobody online. Okay, members, agenda item 6 is correspondence, which, no shock, there are none. So I am now going to ask for a proposer and seconder, Alderman Tinsley and Councillor Hockey, to go into committee for consideration of the confidential items of business. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of the Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask the ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of this meeting can proceed? Thumbs up, thank you, Cal. Can I have a proposer and seconder to agree the recommendations that we have just made in committee? Alderman Tinsley and Councillor McCartan. Agenda item 8, AOB. Alderman Tinsley, are you coming in on this?
Just a brief one, Chair, thank you. Chair, you may have remembered over the years I've been sort of championing the whole CCTV between Godfrey and Seamus and other officers. And a few years ago, funding became available, which was fantastic for the council to get an upgrade across the town centres, working alongside with the PSNI. Now, when that came to council, that report, I had requested that we didn't just necessarily put a CCTV camera up because there was one there existing, because I'm going to be parochial tonight and just talk about Portadown, in that, you know, Portadown CCTV was put up back in the 80s, and the positioning then is not where it is needed now. So why I've raised this tonight is because a number of people who know that I have been involved in the CCTV in the past has actually spoken to me and said, is our cameras working? Are they in the right position? And I suppose it's just a little bit of public confidence that we do have the CCTV in the areas where it's needed. There is an increase in the nighttime issues, and the PSNI have been putting out the request for witness statements, you know, witness appeals for those that maybe have seen things that's happening at night time, and instantly people are coming to me and saying to me, but surely we have CCTV. Now, maybe this is just they're looking additional information, but that's why, Chair, through you, I wanted to raise this tonight with the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Tinsley. I'm going to pass over to Alison.
Thank you, Alderman Tinsley, and happy to give a brief update tonight in the open session, but also I can bring back a much more detailed report through committee. You're right, the upgrade works did commence just under, I think, 2 years ago. It was a huge project to be done to convert the whole system from analogue to digital, and it has been progressing at pace. So out of the 36 cameras, we're down to the last 5 cameras to be sorted. Of those 5 cameras, there are 3 in Portadown which have had duct blockage issues. And at this point in time, estates are progressing a street works licence with DFI to get that resolved. So we hope that those 3 will be remedied in the near future. As part of the upgrade, when we embarked on this piece of work, there was time taken, and police closely consulted with in terms of the location, and they expressed contentment that where the cameras are, that they are content with where they need to be, and that's right across the borough, but also in Portadown. The new camera system is a world of difference. The clarity is excellent. And what I would also suggest to through committee for members is that we did talk about it a while ago, but now that we're near completion, to organise a visit to go off to the suite so that you can see exactly, and you could also talk more closely to the police in terms of the information capture as well.
Okay, thank you, Alison. Councillor Herr.
Thank you very much, Chair. Alison, could you give me an update on the Lurgan CTV? Because I think it was a couple of months ago that there was a wee incident, and I was led to believe it wasn't working. Can you give me a wee update on that, please?
Thank you. My understanding is that Lurgan is fully completed now, and all cameras are working. It's only the 5 cameras that were remaining, and none of them would be in Lurgan.
Okay, thank you, Alison, and members, thank you for your patience throughout the year. That's my final roll of the dice and chair, so thank you to all the officers, members, of people online, everybody who's bothered to pay attention, and over to whoever's next. I think you have a newfound respect for officers in particular when you realise the work that goes into some of these reports, and sometimes they are just information items, decisions items, whether they are, but I want to thank everybody for their patience and their work over the year. Okay, safe home.